You recall that Time magazine put out a cover yesterday. The cover of their new magazine is all about why Trump is an evil, terrible person who hates children. Right? Because this is what Time magazine does. Every other Time magazine is some sort of nasty take on President Trump. Sometimes merited, most often not. So here was Time magazine's cover, in case you forget. It was, in fact, a picture of a little girl who's crying as her mother stands there with Border Patrol, and then everything is erased and it becomes red, and then in front of her you can see President Trump, and then it says "Welcome to America." So it's a tiny 2-year-old kid screaming and crying, and President Trump kind of smugly grinning down at her because he doesn't care about the children. Well. It turns out that this entire cover is a lie. Not only is the cover wrong about President Trump's policy, which of course has been the policy in the United States since a 2016 court decision from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, so dating all the way back to the Obama administration, kids have been forcibly separated from parents who are arrested for federal charges. It is also not true because this girl was not even separated from her mother. So they took a picture of a little girl and then they photoshopped it in to an all-red cover with President Trump in the foreground. And it turns out none of this is true. The little girl is from Honduras. She was not separated from her mother at all. She was crying because her mom was crossing illegally into the United States at about 11 p.m., and the little girl was tired and thirsty, according to Border Patrol. Here's a Border Patrol agent explaining to CBS what the actual story here was.
We asked her to set the kid down in front of her, not away from her. She was right in front of her. And so we can properly search the mother. So the kid immediately started crying as he set it down. I personally went up to the mother and asked her, "Are you doing okay? Is the kid okay?" And she said, "Yes, she's tired and thirsty." It took less than 2 minutes. As soon as the search was finished, she immediately picked the girl up and the girl immediately stopped crying.
Okay, so the media took this photo and they blew it up and they made it seem as though the kid was crying because mommy had just been trucked away to the Nazi death camp by President Trump. Right? This is what the media did. They ran with this story. They ran with the picture. They didn't tell you the rest of the story. By the way, the guy who's speaking there, his name is Carlos Ruiz. So clearly this is a white alt-right racist from the Border Patrol who's talking about this situation. Hey, here's Reuters reporting. Reuters, not Daily Wire. Reuters, quote, "The Honduran toddler pictured sobbing in a pink jacket before U.S. President Donald Trump on an upcoming cover of Time magazine was not separated from her mother at the U.S. border, according to a man who says he is the girl's father. Quote, "My daughter has become a symbol of the separation of children at the U.S. border. She may even have touched President Trump's heart," Dennis Valera told Reuters in a telephone interview. Valera said the little girl and her mother, Sandra Sanchez, have been detained together in the Texas border town of McAllen, where Sanchez has applied for asylum, and they were not separated after being detained near the border. Honduran Deputy Foreign Minister Nelly Jerez confirmed Valera's version of events. Well, not only was this kid not separated from mommy, it turns out that mommy was falsely claiming asylum. She is not, in fact, a political dissident in Honduras. In fact, she ran away from her other 3 children in Honduras. She left them there with dad. Dad has a good job. Mom was working. And yet, all of this was passed around the internet endlessly, and we were told that this Time magazine cover was just demonstrative of how America has gone the wrong way, about how everything is falling apart. Our moral status has been completely decimated. It's been completely decimated thanks to President Trump and his evil. And you see people on the left repeating this idiotic routine ad nauseum. So, for example, there's this one woman who tweeted out one of these stories that has now become ubiquitous on Twitter, where you ask your 5-year-old a woke question. Right? You ask your 5-year-old. So this woman, whose name is Bethany Oakley, she tweeted out, "I asked my 5-year-old if she wanted to come to a protest with me this weekend." First of all, the answer is always no. Your 5-year-old does not want to come with you to a protest this weekend, because why would a 5-year-old want to go stand in the heat for some cause they have no idea what it is? Once I had explained what we were protesting, she looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, "What if they take me away too? I don't know how to have these conversations with my kids," as what Bethany Oakley tweeted out. And you see this kind of stuff all over Twitter all the time. This thing had 15,000 likes, another 14,000 retweets, because asking woke 5-year-olds about immigration policy is the way we ought to make immigration policy in the United States. I know that when I have a serious question about healthcare, I immediately go to my 4-year-old and I ask her to break down Medicaid spending for me. It's a crucial element to know. I need to know what my 4-year-old thinks about the future of Social Security. But more than that, I like to lie to her. It's my favorite thing. Just like Bethany Oakley, I like to lie to my child. I like to say, "Honey, if Social Security isn't reformed, by the time you grow up to 30, you'll be living in a deathly hellscape in the United States in which small children are fed to dogs." And then when she cries, then I say to her, "Honey, I don't know how to have these conversations with you. I just don't." Now, here's the real way you have this conversation with your kid. Your kid says, "Mommy, are they going to take me away too?" And you say, "No, honey, I didn't commit a federal crime." Right? That's the actual way that conversation goes. Because the separation of parents and kids, it ain't happening unless some federal crime has been committed. In this case, the lady claims asylum, and she wasn't even separated from the kid. So the lady falsely claimed asylum. She wasn't separated from the kid. She didn't come up for political dissident reasons, and she wasn't mistreated by Border Patrol. So this story tells exactly the reverse. It tells exactly the reverse of the story that the media wanted to tell, that the media ran with it anyway, because this is what they do. And then they wonder why we hate the media. They wonder why so many Americans look at the media and say, we can't trust you. They wonder why when President Trump shouts, CNN sucks, and everybody starts chanting along with him, that people are chanting. Well, it's not because of Trump. It's because the media have been fibbing about stories like this for my entire lifetime.
Time magazine releasing the cover for its newest edition today. It's the now famous photo of a child crying at the border, but they put the president staring down at that crying toddler with the words, "Welcome to America." Just one problem. The father of that child spoke exclusively to the Daily Mail and said she was never separated from her mom. He said he was told yesterday that his wife and child are being detained at a family residential center in Texas. They are together and doing fine. Let's talk about it with our panel tonight. Former senior advisor to Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, Philippe Reines, and syndicated radio talk show host Chris Plante. They're both chomping at the bit. I feel it before we even get started on this. Chris, do you think that time is going to clarify that picture at all now that we have the backstory from the dad?
I don't think they really care. I don't think they care what the truth is behind the story. It gets a lot worse than that, too. If you see the interview in the story with the father, who remains in Honduras, he's got a good job. He's the captain of a boat at a busy port. He says that his wife left on June 3rd at 6 o'clock in the morning, hasn't seen or heard from her since. So it's nice that he got the update from the media. He said, she left and things there are, fine, not great, but fine, which I guess is the new standard for becoming a refugee or getting asylum or whatever it is in the United States of America, that your husband's job is good, fine, but not great. So you walk across the desert for 3 weeks and you show up in the United States and get a gift basket or something. It's completely ridiculous.
Philippe did say he was very worried about them because his wife had talked about doing this. He was against it, and she left with their youngest child. There are other children, but he said she wanted to live the American dream, and that's why she came.
The truth of the matter is simple. There are more than 2,000 of those little girls that have been separated from their parents. And I think to nitpick about the iconic photo rather than the powerful message that it's capturing, that what's happened these last few weeks has just gone to the heart of problem of who we are as a country, who we let in, how we treat them. I don't think the point is that particular girl. She didn't look very happy to me in that picture.
The point is that particular
toddlers often don't look like that. I mean, they look just like that. They don't look happy.
The point is
taking kids away from their parents. That's the issue.
Barack
No, they were
Obama,
together. In that case, they were together. But I'm just saying we need to be honest about each story and what we're covering.
The honest story
factual.
is that more than 2,300 children have been taken away from their parents.
Barack Obama handed dozens of children over to child traffickers who use them for sex child trafficking, use them for labor trafficking. We handed them over to traffickers under Obama, dozens. If there were one case of that under President Trump, there would be cars upside down burning at intersections across America. The fact that the President Obama, all these pictures we're seeing in the news media are from 2014.
We do have some of those, but we want to be very clear when we show these pictures that these are pictures from 2014.
But those are the pictures that have made everyone hysterical over the course of the last week.
Right, it did start with these, but to be accurate,
the girls in the cage sleeping.
Right, this was under the Obama
whole
administration.
Thing a couple of weeks ago from the Obama administration. Jay Johnson was on MSNBC, dare I say, this afternoon with Andrea Mitchell saying, well, yes, we did increase the number of families that we broke up. They had to increase the number of beds because of the number of children they took away.
Not what he said.
It is what he said. I have the transcript right here.
Jay Johnson said that it was not their policy to separate children from their parents, and they did so under very severe circumstances where it was for health or for criminal reasons.
Well, right.
This is something, let's be clear. Let's just talk about the here and now.
Crossing into our country illegally is a criminal issue. It's a legal matter. It's against the law.
No one's saying
Now, President
it's okay.
Obama gave up on enforcing the law and allowed everyone a catch and release, just a pass through at the border. Now, I don't think most Americans just want to have an open border. The Democrats clearly want to have an open border. That appears to be unambiguously the position of the Democratic
Party. Possibly be for this.
But Felice, what is the resolution, though? Because the outcry that we had was that they were being separated, and it tugged at everybody. It seemed like a horrible way for this to be handled. So the president signs the executive order saying they can stay together. And now we have Democrats saying, no, that's not good enough either. They all need to be released. Right. So what is the real agenda?
Let's be clear here. The Democrats in Congress have about as much control about what goes on there as I do right now.
Well, they control
Fox
the
News.
Senate. If you can't get the 9 together,
they're promising
they
to shut down.
Guys,
Schumer will shut down anything that gets out of the House.
The White House is Republican. The Congress is Republican.
And it was Democrat under Barack Obama when they're handing children over to sex traffickers.
Couldn't even get their own caucus today to get on the same page about a bill.
That's true.
Yesterday, who's arguing on the floor? It is Speaker Ryan and Mark Meadows are at each other's face.
Well, they're taking up the business of the country, unlike the Democrats, which are taking up the business of the party and promising to obstruct and do nothing else. And I mean, honestly, I mean, for the party of Planned Parenthood, Hillary Clinton has a Planned Parenthood award, a Margaret Sanger award.
We made it 7 minutes
a Planned Parenthood award, and to turn around and say that, oh, we love children so much. Last week, the Democrats were in love with the American flag because it was on a stage next to the North Korean flag, and it was the first time in my life that the Democrats rose up to defend the flag.
All right, I don't want to get too far off track.
We are talking about everything except for children who are.
Final word to you.
And this week, they care about children very deeply. I'm not buying it.
I think there's a little bit of a problem in that the right is upset with the left that we can never see anything the president does as good. That's all terrible. The flip side of that, though, is that the right can see nothing the president does as even remotely wrong. This last week,
I think there are a lot of voices.
You know what, though? If you were going to say it, it would be right now, because this last week was an absolute epic fail. He lied about putting this policy in place. He lied about not being able to change it, and then he got caught lying. And I'm no political expert, but that's a bad series of events.
But you are a political expert. All right, we got to leave it there.
Both of our trafficking.
Oh, okay. On that note.